Choosing a stud dog. Hi, my name's Charlie Thorburn. Welcome to More Dog Undogs. So you've decided to breed your dog, your little girl, and hopefully you've done all the sensible things and got all her health tests and all the right things you should have done. And she's the right age and she's a good dog and tick, 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 all those boxes have ticked. And then you're starting to think, well, what about a stud dog? Now, there's a number of different kind of categories here in terms of there's people who just go, oh yeah, I just use the neighbour's dog down the road because oh, he's a nice dog. I mean, it's not that bad a choice, if I'm totally honest. As long as he's a fit, healthy dog and he's a good dog, it's not that bad a choice. If you know the dog, I'd almost recommend to people that they're better off using a dog that they know than a dog just because it's got some fancy accolade. There's then the people who go, oh, I'm going to use the latest field trial champion or the latest show champion or the latest champion of whatever because that's the best dog. Now, often those people have never been to a show or to a field trial or anything else, and they don't actually know what the bloody hell it's a champion of. They're like, oh, it's just a field trial champion, so therefore it must be amazing. So if you're going to go down that route, you probably want to go and see a field trial. You want to go and watch some. You want to see that is what you're trying to produce in your puppies. Because if you want to produce field trial champion dogs, you want to take your field trialing bitch that is awesome and winning trials and breed her to a field trialing dog, not necessarily a champion, but I'll get into that in a little bit, but to a field trialing dog that they're going to complement each other and produce really good dogs that you're going to sell all the puppies to people who want a field trial, and it's just a whole litter that's laid out just for winning field trials in the future. And that's great because that's a niche. It's not what we do because it's not what the part of the gun dog world that we're in, but it's very niche and it's very specific, and you're really looking at what you're trying to achieve and where you're trying to end up. I had a really interesting meeting earlier in the summer with a lady in America who used to be over here, and she's now got a training kennel, well, a sort of private kennel over in the US, and she has a very, very specific idea of what she's trying to breed, which is, as I do, I have a very specific idea. Now, our ideas are not the same, but I wasn't looking at her going, well, you're not doing what I'm doing, therefore you haven't got a clue. I was looking at her going, she might be right, I might be right. We're both right in the way that we are breeding for something that we want to try and create in the end. We had very similar ideas. We had very similar ideas that just because a dog was a good-looking, useful dog didn't mean that actually was the best dog to use. And sometimes a dog like that doesn't actually add anything to the line because he may be great himself, but he might not add anything into the genetics. Whereas a lesser dog might produce a more strong gene that it passes on to its children. So if you are trying to breed field trial dogs because they're all going to be field trial champions in the future, and you're going to train them and your friends are going to train them, then that's the route you want to go down. You want to be very much looking at that sort of pedigree and how to win competitions and what your dog needs to boost its chances of producing dogs that go forward and produce, winning dogs. The same goes with a show dog. If you're trying to breed a line of dogs that wins all the shows, then you want to be looking at dogs that are already winning. You want to be looking at dogs that have produced dogs that are already winning. But that's quite key, is that the winning dog is not necessarily the dog that's going to produce the winning dogs. The dog that is producing winning dogs, even if it's never won, is actually got a better statistic of producing winning dogs. And it goes back to a comment I've made before, which is if one of my boys wanted to become a superstar racing driver, I wouldn't ask Lewis Hamilton, not that he's a friend of mine, I don't know him, but I wouldn't ask Lewis Hamilton to train them because Lewis Hamilton's a great driver, better driver than any of us will ever be, but he's not necessarily the greatest person at teaching driving. So I would ask the person who trained Lewis Hamilton to train my children because I think that would put them in better stead. When we're looking at stud dogs, that's kind of how we look at it as well. We're not actually we are looking at that dog and we want that dog to be a nice dog, but I'm really concentrating on what has that dog produced and is that something I want to continue? And I'll give you some examples. We've used many a dog over the years, and sometimes we'll use a dog and we'll think this is great. It just matches up nicely. They're gonna be, my bitch is a bit small and this dog's a bit bigger. My bitch is a bit slow. This dog's a bit faster. My bitch is is a bit soft, this dog's a bit stronger. And I put the dogs and I think, if we get the best of everything, we're going to be on an absolute winner. And sometimes we've had great success, and other times we just don't produce what we want to produce. And so we look at that stud dog and we're like, well, let's have a little more in-depth look at what else they've produced. And I find that really the dogs they're producing are not the kind of dogs I want to produce. And even added into my line, they don't produce what I want to produce. So I'll just stop using that dog. I'll use it once, maybe twice, and I'll go, not for me, sorry, next, and I'll move on. If, however, I find a dog that when bred to my females, even if he's not a dog that I would actually go, wow, this is the specimen, this is what I like, even if he's a bit small or he's a little bit shy or he's a little bit too confident or whatever, whatever the sort of basic traits that I can talk about that everyone would understand, even if those aren't what I would want in a dog, I wouldn't look at that dog and go, that is my dream dog. If he bred to my girls produces my dream dogs, then I will continue to use him. So it's not just as simple as getting a dog that you go, oh wow, he's a great looking dog, oh, I want one of those. What's he producing? Is he producing himself? Is he throwing strong genes and actually making an impact on these lines, or not? And it came up in a podcast that I did that we've most people who breed dogs and horses and anything and cattle are very much in the view that the female has a bigger impact on the future lines and genetics than the male does. But sometimes you get an absolute sort of awesome male that throws himself and really produces something quite consistent. And I've been lucky enough to have a couple of those. I have one at the moment. And so I know what he's going to produce. And he can be a bit goofy and he can be a bit of a thug and a bit of a wally, but he produces these lovely, consistently lovely, calm, especially in the female line, these just lovely, awesome girls who are beautiful, trainable. They don't have any faults. They don't have any hard mouth or delivery issues. They're just very sweet, straightforward dogs. So we've continually used him, and we've taken him to the AI, the old version of AI that us oldies will understand, artificial insemination vet. And we've got straws off him so that when he's no longer able to produce or he's no longer with us, we can maybe bring him back into our line in a few generations' time. And that was a mistake I made that I didn't do with one of my original dogs, who was awesome. And I wish I could bring that dog back into my line now, because he would just top it up and make it even better. So it's not just about seeing a dog and going, oh, that's nice. Look at the dog. Look at the way he was trained. Was he trained by somebody who trains like you? Could you have trained him to that level? Was he, does he live the life that you want your dogs, your puppies are going to live? Who are you going to sell your puppies to? Because that's another key thing. And I see this a lot in the kind of the show and the competitive world, I would say, either end of the scale, either end of the spectrum. You get people who they're just breeding for themselves. And they have their puppies and they keep one of them, maybe two, and the rest just whoever, put them in Gumtree, put them on Find Your Pets for Home, or like whatever the marketing sort of websites and stuff are. And they just go, they're not like going, oh yeah, you shouldn't have that dog because that's not suitable for you. They're just, oh yeah, we've got 10-week-old puppies and they're shitting all over our kitchen. We need rid of them. Bye-bye. And then really not thinking about what the rest of the puppies are going to do. So you've really got to be quite subjective, looking at your female and going, firstly, should I breed from her? Or am I just going, oh, she's lovely. Oh, she's the best dog ever. Is she though? Is she really? Or are you better off just going back to the breeder and going, I want another one? Because actually you're going to get more likely get what you are looking for if you go back to the breeder and say, can I have another dog like that one? And they go, oh, we're breeding her mother again, and we're putting her mother to the same stud dog, and we're going to produce a pretty much identical litter. And you go, great, I'll have one. Yes, please. 4 years later or 3 years later. Perfect. You're going to get much more success doing that than you are breeding your own dog. And interestingly enough, we had someone here whose dog came for training earlier this year, and really lovely family. They had a number of dogs and had trained them to a really high standard. And they bred them, the mum, who was just a sweet, lovely, calm dog, but very capable, had won a field trial with a novice handler. And very capable dog, but they'd put her to the latest field trial champion, who they didn't know, and produced these slightly kind of highly strung neurotic puppies, because the latest field trial champion was trained by somebody who brought the best out of him, but he wasn't necessarily a stable dog to produce nice working family dogs that might do a bit of competition. So they struggled with him with the puppies, which is why the puppies came here for boarding school for quite a reasonable amount of time, because they just suddenly were like, oh my God, what have we done? And they themselves put their hand up and said, we just used the wrong stud dog. We didn't put enough time and thought into it. So that's quite interesting. They've learned from their mistake. But sometimes you'll just pick a random dog that you've met on the street or whatever, and you'll have a great litter of puppies. And some of that might just be because he actually throws nothing into the mix at all, and all of the good genes come from your dog, and who's the mum of the puppies. But I think people often take it a little bit lightheartedly. They're like, oh yeah, we thought we'd have some puppies. Oh, that would be great for the kids. All the usual sort of crap that I hear. And I'm like, is that really a good reason to produce dogs? Because one of the things I'll tell you, because I see it a lot, is people come and go, oh yeah, I've got loads of people want a puppy off me. Oh yeah, all my friends and family, oh yeah, they all love her. They love her. I've got a list as long as my arm. And actually, they then have the puppies and they call all these people up, and the people are like, oh yeah. Oh yeah, I got a new dishwasher instead. Oh yeah, we're going on holiday. It doesn't suit. I'm like, if you really, really love that dog enough, and you really, really wanted a puppy, you would figure out a way. Oh, we're going on holiday. Can you keep it a little bit? And what they find is, like, two of the people might buy puppies. They keep one themselves, and then they're like scratching their head, going, oh, what do I do with the rest? And often these people sort of call me up and go, oh, we've got these lovely dogs, and oh, I wonder if you wanted some. And I'm like, oh, I mean, I don't know them. I don't know anything about them. Like, you may think they're lovely, but if they were that lovely, they'd have all gone like that, wouldn't they? So you've got to be sort of cautious that all these people who say, I'd love a dog, might well not want one. You've got to make sure they're not just, your mother's auntie's cousin or whatever, who's like, oh yeah, I met them once at Christmas and it was lovely. Those people tend to sort of disappear back into the woodwork from whence they came, rather than the people who are serious about it. And if I'm honest, the people that are serious about it are looking at they're looking at consistency, which I guess is kind of why people like me and Jeremy, who I had on my podcast a month or so ago, are have a regular waiting list, because people know that we really, really think about what we're trying to produce. Now, what I'm going to do now is just give you a little bit of an insight into what I do when I'm picking a stud dog. I've given you some sort of broad sort of views, but one of the things I've done unintentionally, and I now do it, I do look at it as part of my plan, is that I have had a tendency over the years to use stud dogs that belong to girls. And the reason that I've used them, I think, is because they, if a dog is trained by a big, dominant 6'3" ugly bloke, it might be doing what it's told because it's slightly scared and slightly worried about not doing what it's told. If it's trained by a 5'5" pretty girl who's terribly lovely and gives the dog a check on the lead and does the time, puts in the effort, but they really love their dog and they've got a really strong bond with their dog. And not saying that us blokes don't, but it just shows me that dog is a very trainable dog. And it doesn't need someone to be tough on it. We don't want to create like these crazy American Labradors that can only be trained with electric collars. We want to produce nice, gentle, sweet, soft dogs, because that's what we want. That's what my family want. That's what my customers and my friends all want. So that's one of the things. Now, that doesn't mean I won't use a dog at stud that belonged to a guy, but I have done many a time. But I will go and look at that person and how they train. And I will say, are they a gentle trainer? Are they training in the way that I would like my dog to be trained? And therefore, is that dog good because it's been trained in a nice, gentle way? Or is it good because it's had a lot of pressure on it and it's just told what to do? So you've got to get that balance. That's just something I look at. Obviously, if I was just breeding dogs for myself and I wasn't selling them to anyone, families, etc., I might change my view on that. I might looking for something a little bit more feisty, a little bit stronger. The other thing I do is I have a particular look in a dog. I like a good looking dog. I like a square head, a short nose. We're talking particularly Labradors here, but with all my dogs, I like a dog that, as someone once said to me, they have a leg in each corner. They're a good, solid, well built dog, not heavy, not a fat dog, not a dog that can't jump a fence, but just a solid, strong dog that if they run into the back of your leg, you're like, you're probably going to be knocked over, or certainly you're going to notice it. I don't want a little sort of thing with like funny little toenails and little wiry kind of feet. And I like kind of nice big feet. I like a good sort of level tail. I don't want a dog with a big curly tail because they've got all the wrong attitude. A dog with a big curly tail is like prancing around, cocking his leg on everything. He's just an arsehole. We keep well away from them. And their owners, because dogs are like their owners. Um, the the other thing I really look at is what else has it produced? Can I see some dogs that it's produced? Can I see some puppies, some grandchildren? Can I see its sister and its mother? There's a dog I'm used in Yorkshire for a while now, and he's just about come to the end of his usefulness in my lines because he's very much embedded in there. And when I first went to see him, I was recommended I went to see him by somebody who said, "Oh, I know this nice dog. You'd like him." I went to see him, and I did like him. I didn't love him in terms of he wasn't like, wow, look at that. He wasn't Goose to me, which is one of my stud dogs that I have that I just love the look of Goose. Some people don't. I do. I think he's a cracking looking dog. I didn't walk down there and go, wow, look at him. Because if I had, I probably would have written the lady a check for him and just tried to buy him straight away. But I looked at him and I was like, what a nice dog. Nice looking dog, nice conformation. She took him out, she worked him. I could see he was attentive, he was working well. I then met his mother, I met his sister, I met some puppies he already had. I met various different, I was like, yeah, these are all just nice little dogs. I like these. I'm going to try and use this dog at stud. So I used them on one of my girls, let the puppies grow up, saw they were nice dogs. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to use them again. I used them again on that one. I used them on that dog's cousin or sister or whatever. And I started to intermingle him into some of our lines where I thought he was going to add value and add things. And my sort of research was right, and it's produced some he's really produced some continued on a really nice line of dogs for me. He's not added in anything that I don't want. And so that's a little example of some of the things that we're looking for, because that's what I want. So sit back, look at your girl subjectively and go, what is not perfect about my perfect little angel? What would add to her? Is she a little bit nervous? Do you need to make sure you put a really chilled, lovely, like, hey man, kind of let's have a joint kind of a dog? Or is she a little bit of a, let's go? I've got a really cracking dog called Nike, and Nike's awesome, okay? But Nike's a handful, okay? So we just need to make sure that Nike's puppies aren't all a handful. Now, we put her to a dog last year, and they weren't. And actually, Nike's kind of definitely the top end of the scale in terms of how her children turned out. And so we're not worried about that so much. So we're not worried about her producing the bunch of lunatics that no one can train, because she is the kind of the top of the scale. None of her sisters, which I have 2 or 3, are like that. She's just a little bit of a one-off. She's a great looking dog. She's very capable. She's very strong. So she certainly doesn't need any help in the working department. What she needs help in is the kind of calm, and she's great in the house. It's just when she's out on a shoot, she's a little bit full on. So we're kind of always thinking about how we can improve our dogs, but we're being subjective. I love Nike. I think Nike is one of the most cracking dogs, but I'm looking at her going, yeah, but she could be better. And that's what you've got to do when you're looking at your dog. And it's the same thing when you're looking at your stud dog. And please, 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 please don't kind of scratch your head one morning and go, oh, my dog's on day 8. I thought I'd breed it, so probably need to look at breeding it in the next 4 or 5 days. Oh, I need to find a stud dog. I'll go down the road and just find Jimmy's stud dog down the road. Or because you're just not. I mean, you're producing a living being creature, okay? Don't just kind of do it on a whim. Do it because you've really got a plan. You've really thought about it. The best people who want to do this as amateurs should do it just like the professionals do, okay? When the dog's 1, get its health test done. Make sure it's a fit, healthy dog. Make sure that you've trained the dog to a good standard. It's a nice, trainable, biddable dog. Make sure all those boxes are ticked. And if any of them aren't, if a dog fails its hip scores over, just get it spayed. Done. Be done with it. Take the thought out of your mind. Don't age 4 or 5 go, oh, well, we thought we'd get the hips done. Oh, well, they're not as good, but the vet said they might not be as good now because she's a bit older, and it's a load of crap. Okay, she's still got good hips, she's got bad hips. Okay, don't kind of make excuses because it doesn't fit within your mold. Then like, oh yeah, she's in season now. We rushed to get the hip score done, and we rushed to get this done, and oh, we're just going to breed her, and oh, we chose a really nice dog. What do you know about dogs? What do you know about dogs? Like, what's your experience? How many stud dogs have you looked at? Because realistically, it's a bit like my video on boy versus girl. Until you've looked at a lot, you don't actually have an opinion. Don't go, oh yeah, look like a nice dog. Oh yeah, the guy said it was great. Like, don't listen to some guy like me with a stud dog. Of course he's going to say it's great. He wants you to write him a check. He's not looking at that dog going, don't think you should breed off that dog, or pedigrees don't match. He's like, oh great, 500 quid or 800 quid or whatever their stud fee is. They're good to go. They just want you in and out. But thanks, wham bam, thank you, ma'am. So don't take the kind of, the guy whose stud dog I used, he thought she was lovely. Is he taking a puppy? Has he turned around and asked for 4 puppies? Because then he thinks your dog's lovely. Otherwise, he's just there for your money. He's just a snake oil salesman. He's just giving you all the chap. Okay, so just be really, really, have a lot of common sense. Be really, really mindful about why you're doing it, who you're doing it for. We thought we'd do it because it was good for the dog. Like what? Yeah, because Jennifer Aniston not ever having any children, that really had damaged her, hadn't it? I mean, let's be honest here. There's very few people who have had children who are in as good shape as those who have not had children. It's not going to be some like, they should experience it and stuff like that. That's just you kind of being a bit kind of woo-woo or whatever the word is. If you want to breed your dog, the other thing is make sure you do it within the sort of the age zones that's sensible for breeding your dog. You really don't want to be breeding them before they're 2. They're like a child bride, trying to avoid that. And then people get further down the line and they're like 5 or 6 and they haven't had a litter and they're, I really want to continue. Getting a bit old. It's kind of like having children in your late 40s. It's probably not the best thing to do, okay? For the mum, it'll age them dramatically. It'll change them. And then when you have mum and daughter, that's also a difficult combination sometimes. So we can do that on another video, but just be really sensible about why you're doing it, what you're doing it for, what you're trying to produce, and then start thinking about how can I find a stud dog to suit that purpose? How can I find a stud dog to suit my little Cocker Spaniel that sits on a peg and my friends have them that sit on a peg? You don't do that at a field trial because you'll find some like awesome little dog who's like flying around, stepping sharply on the whistle, retrieving blind retrieves. But you ask him to sit on a peg, he'll be like, oh my God, I need to go. Okay, he's just not going to do that. It's not for him. It's not what he's been checked in the box to do. A field trial champion cocker is not a peg dog. It has never been a peg dog and it probably never will be a peg dog. Don't kid yourself. They're rough shooting, they're beating, they're working all the time. And when they're not working, they're driving their owners around the bloody twist. What you want is a calmer, quieter, slightly lazy cocker maybe who's just kind of happy on the sofa and happy sitting around and falls asleep during the middle of the pheasant drive or the partridge drive because he's quite happy falling asleep. Just be sensible about what you're choosing. Anyway, or as I keep saying, I've said certainly in this video, but as I say to people regularly, or just consider leave it to the professionals. Go back to the person you get your dog from who's done it for 25 years or 30 years, or in the case of our client who's been doing it, his family, for 160 years, like they know what they're producing because they've done it for 160 years. Like they know what they're looking for and they're very subjective about it. Go back to them and say, we'd like another dog just like our first dog. And they go, I've got the sister of your dog, I've got the mother of your dog still. They will have a much better idea of how to produce what you want than you ever will. Remember, you get out what you put in. Slightly unusual way to end this video because if you put it in, you get out puppies. Thanks for watching and we'll see you all next time.